Hello, and welcome to Midweek Medicine, where you are the medicine. And I'm joined today by Joe Riley at Yes You, and myself, Alice, at I Am Alice. And today we're talking about what does success mean to you? There's many definitions of it, and also it's really changing, I think, now. Before I think it was really about, oh, I've got all this money, I can have everything, blah, blah. But actually now I think it's going into a much deeper meaning of what success means to you. And, doing what you love is success. Being happy in your life, where you're living, with the relationships you're in, with your life generally, that's success. It's not about how much you have in your bank balance. I mean, obviously that helps, and we all need to pay for our houses and our rent and everything. But it's actually finding and being happy with what you have as well. So if you're actually doing what you love, then you are going to feel successful. And like we were speaking earlier, it's a frequency. You attract what your frequency, what your vibration is. So over to you, Joe. Let's have some
So for
wisdom.
me, yeah, thank you, Alice, for having me here again today, this week. So true success for me is waking up and feeling alive in your own life. And for me, it covers a few different topics of your mindset, frequency, creativity, and obviously business. I think if you have all of these things in place, you will be successful. Yes, money is a tool to success, and it helps us to be able to impact, have a positive impact on humanity and the environment. And the more you can impact, the better for the rest of the world. But I think, starting off for me is definitely a mindset thing. It's about, is your passion? Are you passionate about what you do? Do you wake up every day and feel alive and want to do your work from a place of love and having an impact and helping and being of service? Or do you wake up feeling drained and thinking, oh, another day at work? To be able to create success, you need to have that shift. So do things that light you up. If you love numbers, be an accountant if that lights you up. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. But it needs to really light you up, and you need to have a passion for it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love waking up having that excitement every day. That I'm, because I'm living in Bali, which is, it wasn't my dream location because I didn't even know what my dream was. I didn't really even know what I was going to do when all my life changed, and I just went traveling, and I found Bali, and 9 years later I'm still here, and I find it a really magical place. So for me, where I live, location wise, country wise, is really important because sunshine, and okay, we have a lot of rain sometimes too, but there's something about, it's definitely a frequency here. There's
Yes.
definitely a frequency. And, there's so much nature, and nature, just looking at trees makes me feel happy. It
Yes.
just grounds me and brings me joy. Um, and then, like you say, about creativity and having projects or doing whatever thing you do every day or most days
Yes.
for work. If you don't have passive income or a trust fund, yeah, doing what you love. And actually, for me, all my life, it's been about finding what I love, finding it. I've done lots of different careers, and I've loved aspects of them, all of them.
Yes. And
And
talking about frequency, sorry, darling, just going back to frequency, there's a saying, you attract what you are, not what you want. And joy is the highest frequency. And when you lead from it, everything shifts. I think your energy, if you're doing something from passion and love and, creativity and excitement, your energy is going to really be embedded in what you are giving and being of service and what you do in your working space, and how you actually then, and that frequency then starts matching the frequency of money and abundance. So then you actually, once you hit that same frequency, then, money starts coming in. Then you start really getting the tools to then have an impact and to be able to make a difference. So you have to, we've got to understand you can't create success from a place
mm,
of anger, and because then most people actually end up self-sabotaging their money because they
mm,
get it, but because that they're building it to prove something, or they're angry about something that's happened, or they have guilt
mm,
or
mm,
resentment, they end up losing the money, and then they build it up again, and so they are constantly
mm,
going on this big roller coaster of having
mm.
money and not being able to hold that frequency, because money is a frequency. So I think
Yeah,
it's really important to be, you know, success is based around making sure you are vibrating and doing things that light you up. You know, find your passions, find the things that bring you joy, you know,
mm,
find your creative spark. We all
yeah,
have creativity. It is there for everybody. Yeah, and you can
absolutely.
access it at any time, but you've got to shift your frequency to be able to tap into that creativeness. And
Mm,
creativeness doesn't really start in a work in an office. It starts
no,
in nature, like you were saying. You
mm,
know, or in a shower, or when you're dancing to music, and all of a sudden you get a download of something like that's your creative energy speaking through you, because that's where your body's in a space of joy and grounded and connected, and not busy doing the whole time, where your mind is so you know, you've got so much going on in the mind that you can't actually create from that space. You need to find a little bit of stillness to be able to create.
yeah, and also, I think what happens is when you're on that frequency of your own personal, unique frequency, whatever that is, following what you love, finding out what is your purpose, and we all have a purpose, um, and finding out how we can channel that through across creativity, then the frequency that you're at, you're going to start matching that with other people and opportunities. So
Absolutely.
you're radiating your frequency. And I can show you an example of this. So a few weeks ago, I went on this film workshop. I did a couple of them because I saw them and I was like, oh my God, I'd love to do that. I studied film at uni and I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker a few while ago. And I was like, oh my God, I love that. So I went on this course, just a short morning course, 3 hours, a couple of times. And then I had all these ideas and I got really excited. I thought, wow, yeah, I want to make my book into a tiny little, short film. And then
Yes.
literally a few
Beautiful.
days later, I know, I was like, I can do that. Why not? I could do it in Bali. How can I do that? And I was like having working out how I can do it, pretend I'm not in Bali or whatever. And then I had coffee with a friend who was over, and I was telling her about it. She says, well, let's do it. Let's do it. When are you free? Let's pick a day next week. And then we started
Nice.
brainstorming it, and then we made it. And I was like,
Nice.
wow,
Yeah.
I put it out there that I wanted to do that. And then
Absolutely.
perfect person came in, and I was like, then I realized, oh my God, I'm going to have to be in it. I was like, that's not really, that's not really what I want to do.
Yeah, but
But then
that's
I,
important, because it's forcing
no,
you to step
I
out of
know,
your comfort zone
I
and
know,
to grow in that space. So it's very
exactly.
powerful
So I,
and
I, I said no.
empowering.
I'd said yes to the thing. So I said yes because I want that to happen. So then I had to say yes to putting myself, out of my comfort zone. And
Nice.
and I didn't look at any of the stuff when she was filming. I said, no, let's just do it, in between giggling because I was thinking, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to be like in this thing. And anyway, I got over the giggles and I thought, oh yeah, that's what you do, method acting. That's what it is. And yeah, in the end, it was really fun. And yeah, so I was just like, so that's, that just shows the synchronicity. You put it out there and you found a match, and then
Yes.
it all just happens. And it was just so smooth. We spent like 3.5 hours. We both had ideas, and we just did it. So yeah, if only life could be like that all the time. You
And I
can just
think
put it
that's,
out
you know,
there,
going
and then
back
it
to success. It
Hmm?
is you when you're aligned. I think going back to success, you know,
Yes.
if you're doing things from that space, you know,
Mm,
you feel aligned, and when it feels aligned, you know, that is a signal that you're on the right path. If it's bringing you, making you feel alive and making you want to get up and do these things and put yourself out there and step out of a comfort zone, you know, that
mm.
is you building success in your life. You know, there's
Yeah.
not just, it's the same as wealth. Wealth is not just wealth in money, you know,
Mm,
wealth in health. If you look after
mm,
yourself, healthy, you know, then
mm,
you've got a very rich life. If you've
mm,
got, if you, you know, with love, with everything, These
mm,
things, they're all different frequencies and vibrations. So to
mm,
match it, you have to be living it. You have to be looking after yourself.
mm,
You have to be taking care of yourself, in order to be able to access creativity.
mm,
And that's why I always say protect your frequency, because it is a very, very, very valuable asset that we have. And I don't think enough of us understand the importance of frequency and energy. I
yeah.
think we forget sometimes, because we get so stuck in our bodies, in this human experience, that we forget everything is energy. And so we have to make sure our frequencies and mindsets are always aligned. And I think, for me, success is four different departments. It's mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
if you
So,
can have all those different blocks aligned, you
mm,
will be successful.
of course, but it's like you say, it's partly mindset and the kind of Western society that we've been, brought up in. It's all. I mean, you can't deny that most people think success is money. Yes, okay, happiness and a good relationship, but it's still there's a lot of emphasis on the money
Mm.
thing.
Yes.
And usually by getting that money, you have to actually sacrifice your health because a lot of people get burnout from having all these businesses or whatever they're doing, overstretching themselves. They're actually working
Mm.
like, like a hamster on a hamster wheel.
Yes.
And so they actually don't have the time to to actually really find out what they're doing. I mean, you must know lots of people that have worked for 20, 40 years in a job they actually didn't like.
Yeah.
And and they get to retirement and it's like, right, I'm going to do all the stuff that I wanted, that I didn't get around to doing, and I want to do now. But that's we know that's not the future. I
No.
mean, even just to have a 9 to 5 job, I don't think is the
No.
future.
And also, like talking about that, it's also, again, with clients that I've worked with who are stressed, who have burnout, who have anxiety, who have depression, and all these things, it's because they're not taking the time to look after themselves. They're not giving themselves every day moments for themselves. And it's really important to just slow down and take a moment for yourself. However much time you can give to yourself every day is really important, because
Mm,
that's where you find your passion. That's where you can create some joy. That's where the creativity comes. You will, because if you notice, when you're stressed, your thoughts, notice the thoughts that shrink you, because you're probably doubting yourself. You're probably having, negative speaking to yourself, and you rather replace that with something that expands you, that's something that actually lifts you up, something that drives you to become a better version of yourself.
mm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's about having to have the time to actually develop that. If you're in a 9 to 5 job, it's not so easy, but you can still do it. You can still do it.
Absolutely.
When I worked in a 9 to 5 job in London, I every lunch hour, I wouldn't work at my desk or eat my lunch at my desk or work through
No,
it like many
me
of them
neither.
did. I always got myself out of the office, went for a walk along the
Yes.
Thames,
Mm.
popped into an art gallery or whatever's going on around me. Just go and look at the river. It's quite dirty, but but
It
I
doesn't
just
matter.
no, I'd sit on a bench and observe people. Just go and have a coffee and just take a moment out. Because then when I went back to my desk, I was in full flow again. But not taking that break, I would have just been like, just
Yeah.
drained. But
Yeah.
taking those breaks actually gives you more energy. It gives you
Mm.
more creative ideas. It makes you feel better. It's better for your health. It's better for everything. It's better for your heart. And you're a happier person instead of like, oh, I'm working through the lunch hour and I'm eating at my desk and I'm, all of this kind of, thing. It's just like, no.
No, and I think the problem with that is that was the programming and the systems that were put in place for us to do that, which just creates stress and burnout. But actually, if you have boundaries, you can say, even if you work a 9 to 5, like, I'm going to take my lunch hour, and actually remove yourself for an hour, because that in that hour, nothing actually changes. You can still
Mm,
do what you needed to do in that hour when you come back from lunch, after
mm.
giving yourself a break. And it's important even to get away from your desk, just
Yeah,
physically moving, move the energy, move this, so that you
great.
also have more clarity.
Mm, mm.
But we
It's
can't,
like
unfortunately, we can't create success success unless we
mm,
have an awareness about
mm,
what is going on in my life. Is this
mm,
aligning with me? Does this light me up? Is this making me feel good inside? Because it all starts inside and then it
mm.
reflects outside of us. Because if things aren't, you need to either put boundaries in with work so that you have those kind of moments where you can take a lunch hour and there's not an expectation for you to work at your desk, because then you're also not even being present with your food. You're not eating because it's bringing you nutrients and nourishing your body. You're eating because rushing because you need to get your job done.
I
The
know, but
whole thing doesn't work.
people chose that. They didn't have to. There was no pressure on them to do that. But people chose to do it. It's like maybe an anxiety thing about being so super good at your job or something, that staying there is like saying to yourself, it was all about them. I mean, everyone had an hour break, that no one had to be there. And of course, you're not going to be productive if you work through your lunch hour. You're going to be less productive. In fact, managers should realize this is, actually, it's usually the managers doing that. And actually, it's a really, it's actually, you're not doing your job properly if you're actually not taking a break.
Yeah.
Because you can't, because your brain can't function. But anyway, we're talking about mindset and frequency. But that is kind of a mindset, isn't it? That mindset that you just follow everyone. Oh, because everyone else is working through, so I'll do it. Well, I didn't follow the rules on that one, the unsaid rules. I mean, you just can't. You actually have to make your own decisions. You have to empower yourself to know what's best for you.
Absolutely. And I think, for me, real business success is actually built on a foundation of joy and not
Mm,
grind, to be
mm,
honest.
mm.
I think grinding away day by day makes us extremely ill.
Yeah.
And just from the clients I work with, I can see it. People in corporate, they burnt out, they're super stressed because they grind and grind and grind, and there's so much pressure on them all the time. And that's not going to create real success in your life for sure.
Yeah, and the managers, it all comes from the top and they push it down to everyone else. So actually everyone gets burnout to different
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not a way to move forward. So we've found our frequency, we're doing what we love. Now what?
Absolutely. Now we get to just grow and evolve and have a positive impact on humanity, my darling, and make the world a better place. Why
Exactly.
not?
Well, it's like you say about energy, and then you meet people like, obviously Bali's very people are very sociable, people are from all different countries, and obviously the locals and everyone, people are very friendly. So it's like, when you're in that frequency, you meet loads of really lovely people. And the thing is, I remember in London, it was actually very hard to meet new people. Obviously I had my friends from uni and friends from work and different friends, but it's like everyone's scattered all over quite a large area. So every time you met somebody, it was all very organized, like, oh, I've got a spare Saturday or a spare evening here and there. Whereas here it's much more spontaneous and it's much more fluid. And so I think that's where we're going into community, where people actually have time to actually have a conversation, an interesting conversation, because it's not all about work, it's not all about stress, it's not all about burnout, it's not all about miserable news.
And actually, I think it's quite interesting because a lot of people I'm speaking to at the moment, regarding business and things like that, all of them are building communities because it is important to have a community that can empower you, hold you accountable, and support you on your journey. Instead of some people, and I think this is also another thing that we've got to realize that there's people in our lives that probably have passed their sell-by date, that probably shouldn't necessarily still be in our lives because they're holding us back. And it's okay to sometimes just reevaluate that within your life. And because if you let go of certain people that are holding you back and negative and all these other things, it's okay to let that go, because you create space in your life to be able to actually meet the people that are on that same frequency where you are now, to help you elevate and evolve. And so then you have the accountability. You have people that believe in you, your success, that empower you to be successful. And when you work from that frequency and you have those kind of people around you and you're in a community, it helps. It really, really has a positive impact on how much faster you can evolve into the next stage.
Yeah, absolutely. It is all about collaboration and community for the future, for sure. And it makes it more fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, way more fun.
Much more fun. I mean, everyone's, sitting, doing their own thing. Say if you're self-employed and you're working at home on your laptop, And to have other people that are working on projects with you,
Yeah.
that's what I love about film. It's like it's not a solo, it's not something you do on your own. It's a group thing. So and having different skills, and it's so much more fun than doing
Yeah, I
everything.
love co-creating because
Yeah.
you get to bring so many different perspectives, and it's so fun, and you get to laugh, and you're not having to. Success is not a one-man job. That's one thing I'm realizing. It's actually when real success, when you want the joy, the passion, it's so much easier when you co-create with somebody, when you
Mm,
build with somebody, because then you get to enjoy it together. And it doesn't have to
exactly.
necessarily be a partner like in an intimate relationship. It can be a business partner. It can be someone you just co-create who has the same passions and interests in life. And it can be anything. But to
Mm,
have somebody to co-create, or one or two or however many, is so much better. And I think it's so much more powerful.
exactly. And it's to have the fun part in that, because you're
Yeah,
aligned, it's more fun. And if it's more fun,
definitely.
we're going to have more joy, and then we're going to have more success, whatever
Yes,
success means.
definitely, definitely,
Then you can
definitely.
enjoy the success together as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and you get to celebrate, even the
Absolutely.
small wins. And I think
Mm.
I was at an event over the weekend, and gosh, we celebrated. Everybody was celebrating everybody, and the wins and small wins, big wins. It doesn't matter. Just celebrating, because that brings joy. When people are celebrating you, it lights
Yeah.
you up. You feel, wow, I've got this. Like
Exactly.
this is amazing. And so I think we have to come back to celebrating each other. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter how big or how small. Any win is a win.
Exactly. And that's kind of honoring yourself, isn't it? And that's actually
Mm,
self-love. Because if we
yeah.
can actually, you know, be proud of ourselves. I mean, I don't know about you. How often are you proud of yourself? I was thinking that the other day. I was thinking, gosh, I don't really think I'm that proud of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love what I do, and I'm doing the stuff that I'm passionate about. But I don't really necessarily feel like, I don't know, really proud of myself. But
Mm,
doing that short film, I felt really proud of myself because I'd gone out of my comfort zone. I'd manifested something I really wanted to do, and then I felt actually really proud of myself. And
absolutely.
yeah, so it's like really nice when we can actually be proud of ourselves. We can share that with others. We can be proud of others. We can support each other. We can network this, amazing sort of connection of
Yeah.
bringing everyone together, not just in words, but actually in actions and in frequency and in energy, because
Yes.
the past society that we've grown up in is got a very strong sell by date on it, and it's really not
Well,
where
yeah,
we
I
want.
think the whole, the systems, the structures, the way we've been programmed into how we think we should be living life is completely the wrong way around. We weren't born, we didn't choose to come into this life. We've come here with a purpose, but we've also come here to really enjoy the meaning of life. And
Mm,
suffering is not that. And so
mm,
what are we creating in our world to create illnesses and suffering and all these things? Because that is not life. Life is here to enjoy it. Yes, there's always going to be challenges. Yes, there's going to be good times and bad times. But all of that is actually the full experience of life, and how we learn to manage it, how we learn to manage the changes, how do we learn to
mm,
manage all these things and still stay and love life and love it fully.
mm.
I think it's so
The contrast,
important.
don't we? We
Yeah.
can't have this amazing life, and then it would be like, well, how would I know that was amazing? How would I know
Yeah,
it's amazing if I haven't had obstacles to work through, and difficult experiences? Because it's only actually in having those really difficult experiences that we really understand the value of, and really feel the joy and amazingness
yes,
when we felt
definitely.
the opposite, because
Yeah,
if
it's
you
a
haven't.
scale. You've got to measure both sides. You've got to find balance. You have to have experienced both
Yeah,
sides of that. So, and
yes.
that's part of life. But don't let it
Mm,
hold you back. Like, don't let the bad parts and the bad
mm,
situations and the bad experiences hold you back. Don't become a victim to it. Don't become stuck in it, in the stories. Rather heal, let it go, but
mm,
learn the lessons in it. Learn the valuable lessons so that be able to become a better version of yourself. So you grow within that space.
Yeah.
So first of all, you don't repeat the same patterns, but you
Mm.
also then see the difference, and then you can actually put different boundaries and different things in place so that those things don't happen again. And that's
Exactly.
part of our journey of life.
And we can channel it into our creativity as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, and
Yeah.
it's more like a self-discovery,
Mm.
like we'll discover aspects of our abilities or what brings us joy, whether it's singing or something. And then we
Yeah.
can use that to actually honor, like, I think I might have said about this song that I created, and I used it to honor myself going through grief. And so we can find these ways, our unique ways, or other people's ways. Try it any which way, but to try and process our
Yeah.
feelings.
And just
These.
talk to them about what you're saying about you, somebody else's.
Mm,
That's what they say. To be successful, model someone else who is successful, someone that
mm,
inspired you, somebody that you're inspired by. Like follow them, follow what they've done because they've got it right. And if they can
mm,
do it, anyone can do it. We're all the same at the end of the day. We all come here the same way.
mm. I
So
hope
yeah,
so.
it's really, yeah, really,
Well,
really important. And
yeah.
that's how we grow a successful life.
Yes, and I think to finish, I think it's just like success is actually finding the balance, isn't it? It's finding the
Yes,
balance between it
yes,
all. And when we
yes,
find balance, our life is more harmonious, and then
yes,
our emotions are more harmonious. Our life is more balanced, and we don't have
absolutely.
so much of the roller coaster, which can be quite tiring after a while. So
Absolutely.
more the peace and calm, but for
And
the few
before we
moments.
finish, I just want to say thank you to B, Nick, Daniel, AJ, Missy, Isabella, Curtis, all these beautiful people that are live with us today. Thank you for
Thank
being
you,
here with us.
and you can always join us next week, same time on Midweek
Yeah.
Medicine. And thanks, Joe, for joining me once again.
And thank
And
you, Alex.
see you next week for more joy.
Yes. Have a magical week, all of you.
Yeah, take care. Bye
Bye.
bye.